Beautiful. So the title of my talk today is Synchronicity. If you ever want to play a fun game with the universe, whoop, tell it. Apparently, it's playing games now. Tell the universe that you want to give a talk, or maybe even write a paper on the topic of synchronicity. Because as you do, the universe, of course, supports your efforts. So throughout the last month, once I sent my title in to Sharon, I said, I'm going to talk on synchronicity. And daily, something's happening, or somebody called me to tell me about a synchronicity that happened in their lives because they knew, well, Jen's studying synchronicity right now. So I'm constantly being bombarded for the last month with synchronicity from the universe, from individuals, to the point where finally I was like, it's a 20-minute talk. So I promise not to share them all with you today. But you can play the game yourself. That's one of the things I love about spiritual principles, about spiritual law and understanding, is it's not just about reading it in a book and saying, hey, that's cool. Because then it doesn't have the practical application, and we're all about practical application, right? So you can test this out at home this week.
What is synchronicity?
So we'll get to that. Thank you, Alex. Alex asks, what is synchronicity? Before I try to define it, let me start off with an example, one of the many. And actually, I'm pulling from my personal resources from a couple years ago on this one, because this one is one of the ones that, for me, was that example in my own life that made me say, okay, this really has some power to it, right? So I love Edwene Gaines. We have some Edwene fans in the house, yeah. Rightfully so, she's amazing. So I had told myself that I was going to go to an Edwene Gaines retreat out in Alabama at her retreat center. So I looked online and saw what she had coming up that summer that I was interested in going. And the one that she had that fit my personal time schedule was called Angels and Orbs. Sounds kind of interesting, sounds kind of intriguing, and yet, to be honest, the word angels kind of weirded me out, if I'm being honest. So I thought, is this still mine to do? Do I go? So I went, and day one, Friday night at the retreat, Edwene's having us all share, what are our experiences with angels? So I got up and shared, I'm not comfortable with the word angels. I'll be honest with you guys. And so she said, oh, they'll show you differently this weekend. You wait, if you're here, you're ready to accept something. So that evening, she had us do a meditation in which she led us to ask our angels for a sign, something clear that would be unmistakable, that we would know they were with us over the course of the weekend. So as she's leading us through this meditation, and I'm sitting there, quietly in my chair, I got this thought, blue shell. Blue shell, okay, I'm in Alabama. I don't see any beaches nearby. And as far as I remember, I've never in my life encountered a blue shell. So I told the thought in my head, blue shell's crazy, please give me something else. Yeah, what do you think they said? No. Take the blue shell, trust us on this one. And I very clearly got the reason why is if we gave you something simple like a butterfly, you'll dismiss it when you see it. Right? So how often do we get spiritual insight, get spiritual ideas, and we try to go, no. That's a crazy one. Please give me something that makes sense, right? That's logical. Spirit doesn't work in logic. It's not how that operates. So I was given the phrase blue shell. So the next morning, I was out walking around the grounds, and I noticed a little path that led behind the chapel area. Now, when I say chapel, it's really like a little log house. So I walked back there, just feeling, led. I'm just exploring. And as soon as I turned the corner, I stopped, because in front of me was an angel statue. There were lots of them, maybe about this high. But at the foot of the angel statue was a glass blue shell. A blue shell in Alabama, right? And so, I literally gasped, probably made some very outrageous facial expression, to the point where the woman who was meditating in the gardens kind of looked up at me like I was a little weird. I was like, no, but it's a blue shell, you don't understand, So, of course, had to tell her my whole story and all of that. But to me, it's the perfect example of a synchronicity. Something that are two experiences, one in mind maybe, and one in the physical world, that come together. But there's such connection there that it's beyond coincidence. Right? A coincidence sort of speaks of happenstance. Well, isn't that lucky? Was it lucky that I saw a blue shell after having the thought of a blue shell to prove that angels are real? Now, my idea of angels probably matches that of Charles Fillmore pretty closely, and that is that angels represent divine ideas. They're divine ideas constantly guiding us all the time. And I believe that's where synchronicity plays out. Whether the divine ideas have spiritual form, if we could see spirit, I don't know. Whether they're the same as the same spiritual energies that are revered in Native American cultures, I don't know. But what I do know is that they're there. They're there in passing these divine ideas to us, guiding us, helping us. And if they are, well, doesn't that give you hope? Hope that there is more than just this physical. Hope that those crazy ideas that come through that fill us with joy really aren't so crazy. That if we say yes, if we follow them, that the next step will be led to us as well, or we'll be led to it. Now, the term synchronicity, to get back to you, Alex, the term synchronicity was originally coined by Carl Jung. He said that synchronicity is two or more events that occur in close proximity, that don't have any causal connection, but they seem to be meaningfully related. Jung said that synchronicity is not just a coincidence, but a significant coincidence of physical and psychological phenomena that are causally connected. There's a link, a connection between them. Did you all know that Jung was the one that came up with that idea, that word? Because we hear that word a lot now, right? But it makes sense. It makes sense, and it actually came about when he was working with a patient who had come into him and shared a vision, a dream that they had had about a specific type of beetle. And I don't remember the exact details, but maybe it was the next day Jung was thinking about this patient, or maybe the patient was back in his office, but there was still this connection in thought of this patient. And that same type of beetle showed up in Jung's office and whacked itself against the window to where it, kind of caused like a startle, like, oh, what is that? And he looks, and it's that beetle that is not native to where he was. Coincidence? That was the turning point for Jung, where he was like, there has to be more than just coincidence at play here. There's something that we don't see, some intangible thing that's, as Charles Fillmore loved the word, the ethers, right? It's riding in the ethers. So our thoughts truly are formative, and they help to connect us with something larger than ourselves, that we are truly all interconnected in unity. How fabulous. And again, you do not have to take my word for this. You get to test it out. You don't have to take Jung's word for it. You get to test it out. Do our thoughts really have power? Are we truly co-creators of our lives? Because if we do, can we label ourselves as victims anymore? We cannot. If we are co-creators, if our thoughts and our words truly have power to form and shape our life experiences, choose the thoughts and the words that draw to you what you want to experience. Now, I believe at the core, what we want to experience is love. All of the things that you could list off and say, I want to experience this and this and this and this. At the core, it's love. How many of you want to draw to you anxiety, stress, separation? Not so much, right? What we are seeking is more joy, more peace, more harmony. And in unity, we say, thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. So the thoughts themselves become powerful. And are we then simply thinking the thoughts, or our divine ideas, the angels coming in and sharing thoughts with us that continually lead us to our highest good? When we learn to live from that place of flow, of understanding that we are in God, God is in us, and in everyone that we see, and we tap into the love at the core of that, and we seek to harmonize with that love ever more fully in all that we do, then the synchronicities pop up. The guidance pops up. Jesus said, ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be open to you. What are we seeking? What are we asking for? Which door are we knocking on? I claim that the door that we're knocking on is the door of spiritual understanding. It is the door to the kingdom of heaven, recognizing that that kingdom of heaven is right here, right now. And as we ask, as we seek, as we lean into that, we experience it, we live it. We live from that place of love and express that out, creating that experience of heaven in our lives. So how many are on board? How many say yes? Yes. Yes. I like the idea of knocking on the door and inviting more heaven into my life, more love into my life, co-creating with the divine ideas, whatever they look like to you. I tend to think that divine idea, right? Divine idea, that lends itself to so many things. You could believe that they look like fairies or winged angels, or you could believe that they look like animal spirits or guides. The thing is, it's a divine idea. As you are a divine expression of God, divine ideas might come in many different ways into our thoughts. So we don't need to question, what do they look like? What is it? Is it truth? Is it not truth? Well, test it out. Find out for yourself, is it truth? no truth in your own heart. So how do we play with this? How do we really test it out? One of the things that I love doing is creating a visual representation of whatever it is that I'm focused on. Several people use the term vision boards or treasure mapping to create ideas of what it is that you want to draw into your life. I also do journaling. I journal almost every morning. And I also teach creative journaling through the arts ministry. And in these processes, right, when we have the idea, the divine ideas in our mind, and then we capture them somehow physically capture them, that we can go back and look at them. Now, I don't know if that's part of the process, right, that maybe enriches it, enhances it, because we're paying attention enough to create it onto paper or maybe in paint on a canvas. What it is that we love that's drawing us to it, that we want to harmonize with. Maybe there's power just in that alone, but maybe not. Maybe it's the fact that once we write it down, well, now we have something we can go back to. Right? So when I thought blue shell, I wrote it down in a journal because I knew myself pretty well and knew myself enough that I might go and see maybe a blue shell, and it would be pretty easy for me to write it off and go, but maybe what I really thought was a blue butterfly, but I thought about maybe a shell, but that's not really what it was. But if you write it down, it makes it a whole lot easier to go back and prove to yourself, oh yeah, those were the words, that was what I was thinking. And it's also pretty cool because then you can show it to a friend and go, look at this! Isn't this cool? Right? So when you have it on your vision board, it's pretty cool when you can go back and share it with somebody. And it becomes that proof that those ideas aren't just crazy ideas. They truly are divinely inspired ideas guiding us. And that's pretty amazing. I had a student in my class just this past month, right? Thank you, universe, for yet another example, who had created, doing creative journaling, and she'd created on the inside of her journal a page where she had like a copy of a $100 bill, and she glued it into her journal, and she wrote across the top, "Hi, Ben, expecting you." And she shared it with everyone in the class. She thought she was pretty clever. It was really cute, right? And then the next week, she came into class beaming, because over the weekend, she decided to clean out her closet. And as part of cleaning out her closet, she was going through old purses and old wallets and just getting rid of stuff. She found, guess what? Not one, but two $100 bills. How many of you have $100 bills lying around your house? Right? So, she showed me and I freaked out. I was like, oh my gosh, And yet, despite the fact that I've been spending a month thinking on synchronicity, having all these ideas of synchronicity pop into my own life, having people share them with me, every single time it is literally awe-inspiring. It's amazing. It's amazing. We are part of something so much larger. And that's what we teach in Unity. Unity, right? Unity, one power, one presence, always. And yet we go about our lives and we forget that. So when these things happen, it's that constant reminder. So I invite you this week to write, to draw, to collage, whatever it is that you are wanting to bring more of in your life. Feel that energy of it. Feel that connection, that love, that joy, that passion. and see what happens. Maybe it's a friend you want to connect with. That's an easy one, right? How many of us have thought of a friend and then they call like within 10 minutes, maybe within that week, but we haven't talked to them in years, and all of a sudden, there they are, right? Maybe it's a new job experience that we're calling forward. Think about that. What does it feel like? What do you envision? Bring yourself into that harmonized energy of that and write it down or capture it in some way. And then when it shows up, whatever it is for you, when it shows up, write that down too. Capture that too. So when we have those periods in our lives where we feel separate, where we feel disconnected, where we feel anything less than the creative, inspired, divine beings that we are, we will remember that connection. I have a picture of my angel with the blue shell at the foot of her feet that sits on my desk as a constant reminder. So anytime I'm feeling in that space of separate, of less than, I look at that angel and I'm like, okay, we got this. I'm not alone. I'm not alone. So play with it this week. I invite you to share with one another when you come back on Sunday. I won't be here next Sunday, but when you come back, share with each other what happened. Be in that space of magic, of joy around it, and see if more comes into your life. So to close, I want to share one final story about angels and my angel retreat with Edwene. The whole thing was fabulous. She's fabulous. Go see her. Get yourself out to Alabama if you can. It was amazing. But this happened, my final story happened after I left. I left the retreat, stopped for gas on my way home. And next to me pulls up a truck, like the size of a medium-sized U-Haul, not one of the little ones, pretty big-sized truck. And on the side of this truck is a mural of angels. How many of you have ever seen a mural of angels painted on the side of a truck before? Me either. So I chalk that one up as a synchronicity and not a mere coincidence. And angels and I now have a new loving relationship. I do not doubt their presence at all. And I say thank you when the synchronicities happen. Thank you to those invisible, divine ideas constantly guiding me. And I know that they are guiding you as well. So pay attention. Listen, and be present to the angels in your life that show up as those synchronistic moments. Thank you.